All right, everyone, it is time for the 2024 Sandbox MMA Awards. We're giving out a bunch of different awards: Fighter of the Year, Comeback of the Year, Non-Champion Fighter of the Year. There's going to be about 16 awards on here, and I'm going to give you my number one pick and a few honorable mentions. Now, while I am doing this award show and I'm showing you what I am awarding to be, in said category, there will still be other videos coming out about the specific award, such as the top 20 fights of the year, and I will go 20-1. So you may know what the number one is. You may know a couple that'll be in the top 5, but you aren't going to know all of them. So when those videos come out, make sure you tune in because those are going to be the sleepers. These are going to be the ones the most of us know about. And without further ado, let's just get into it with what I would find to be probably the most intriguing of the awards, and it's the Male Fighter of the Year. I'm going with Alex Pereira. I was very, very close to picking Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria has the best 2 wins on the year for sure, but what Pereira was able to do for the company, he fought a whole nother time. He saved cards, and he was also on some of the biggest cards of the year. So you think about it, UFC 300 needs a fight. UFC Scrambling, they get Alex Pereira. Not only do they get Alex Pereira, they have other great fights on the card, and Alex Pereira finishes off what could be one of the greatest cards we'll ever see. No, we're going to get to card of the year, and I'm going to talk about my selections for that and why I picked what I did. So I'm not giving anything away. But, listen, Pereira's got 3 wins this year, man. Khalil Roundtree, he had a fight of the year contender with. Great fight with Khalil Roundtree. Showed us that he was able to go through adversity. He saved the Salt Lake City card that almost had just a women's co-main event, which would have sucked. Saved that. McGregor and Chandler doesn't end up happening. He steps in on short notice and fights Yuri Prohaska. Both of those guys, UFC 303. He steps in, saves a card there. And then obviously he main evented UFC 300 with a spectacular knockout, finishing the show in epic proportions after a great moment of waving Herb Dean off. So he had moments. He had the stardom. He had memes getting made out of him. He had chants of his own little Saiyan Shama going everywhere. So, Alex Pereira is my fighter of the year. Ilia is a close second as far as what was accomplished in the octagon. You can absolutely give it to Ilia. He has 2 knockouts over 2 top 10 fighters of all time. That's damn right. I said it. 2 top 10 fighters of all time. Ilia's knocked out in the same year, back to back. And they are tough matchups for him. Other names, Dricus du Plessis, 2-0, 2 title defense, or a title win and a title defense this year over tough competition, mind you. Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya. You have Joaquin Buckley 4-0 on the year, and then Merab Dvalishvili also has 2 wins this year, 1 over Cejudo, 1 over O'Malley. Those are impressive wins. But we're going to move on. The Male Fighter of the Year, Alex Pereira. The next one is the Non-Champion Fighter of the Year. And that's Joaquin Buckley, guys. Hear me out. A lot of the people that just jumped on the bandwagon of the sport are going to go, Carlos Pratis, dude. He goes out there and he just puts people to sleep. Well, let's not forget the fact, Carlos Pratis, stud. Unbelievably entertaining, fun fighter, great fighter. Joaquin Buckley's also 4-0 this year. Now let's just compare the wins. The first win for Carlos Pratis, Trayvon Giles. Not a crazy name, but it's, we all know who Trayvon Giles is. Carlos Pratis kind of got boxed up by Trayvon Giles for about a round and a half, and then he landed the big shot to put him to sleep, where Joaquin Buckley, his first fight of the year, was not in May. I'm drawing a blank. Who the fuck was Joaquin Buckley's first fight this year? Because it wasn't Nursultan Ruzaboyev. In May, he beats Nursultan Ruzaboyev. I'm going to look this up for you guys right now because it is absolutely driving me nuts. But I guess let's start from the back, okay? Just like I'm... Never mind. That was going to be a big pause moment. But let's start with at the end of the year. Joaquin Buckley's most recent win over Colby Covington. Very impressive. Stuffed a bunch of Covington's takedowns. Ends up winning via doctor stoppage, what was dominating that fight. Incredibly impressive performance. Whereas Carlos Pratis got taken to the ground by Neil Magny and ended up landed on a knockout shot in round 1. Just Neil Magny and Colby Covington don't compare in terms of skill level. But then you go back again, you have Pratis knocking out Leach in an insane knockout, crazy good performance. Well, what did Buckley do? Buckley knocked out Wonderboy. Tougher competition. Also a great knockout in round 3. Sick performance there as well. It was a tough fight, but it's against better competition. So they're both 2-0 coming from that point. Oh, I remember. Nursultan Ruzaboyev is not the one that, I was forgetting. We're going to get that in a second. But Nursultan Ruzaboyev got dominated by Joaquin Buckley, a guy that everyone was saying was going to be a major problem. Got dominated. Much better competition than Charles Radke, who Pratis fought. Charles Radke got knocked out with a brutal body knee from Carlos Pratis, and it was nasty. Sick knockout. But I rate the Buckley win over Ruzaboyev a little bit higher. And then I'm rating the Buckley win over Luque, who ended up getting a round 1 submission over Themba Gorimbo later in the year. Buckley finished Vicente Luque, another ranked fighter, while Carlos Pratis was getting boxed up by Trayvon Giles. So Buckley's the non-champion fighter of the year. I actually don't think it's even a conversation of Buckley and Pratis. The other guy in here that I'm looking at, Diego Lopez, great year. Made weight 3 different times and beat Dan Ige by decision. Beat Brian Ortega. Knocked out Sadiq Youssef. I mean, tremendous performances from this guy. So, Buckley is the non-champion fighter of the year, but you got to give props to Lopez. You got to give props to Pratis. Charles Johnson's another big one, knocking out Joshua Van's huge, beating Sumo Derji. Pretty sure he beat Azat Maxim this year. Hanato Moicano, massive destruction of Benoit Saint-Denis. Sick performance. Also beat Drew Dober and Jalen Turner. And then Alexander Volkov, a guy who to me is 2-0 this year over incredibly difficult competition. No, he's 3-0. No, he's 2-0 because he beat Tuivasa in 23. And then in 24 he goes and he beats Sergey Pavlovich, a monster by dominant decision. And then he beats Cyril Gane in front of all of our eyes and got robbed. You might hear a little bit of a category for Alexander Volkov and Cyril Gane too specifically coming up. May already spoiled robbery of the year, but I think you know what it is. In all seriousness, I mean, Joaquin Buckley's the non-champion fighter of the year. I mean, this guy has been on an absolute tear, 4-0, and is on the verge of a title shot. Well, he gets a title elimination fight, and if he wins that, title shot. So Joaquin Buckley, absolute animal, and he's getting the crowd behind him, too. So great shit out of Joaquin Buckley. Female fighter of the year, just going to go with Kayla Harrison. She actually has 2 wins. Natalia Silva's another good one, but Kayla Harrison will be fighting for a title next. Zhang Weili's the only champ that didn't lose her belt, and she did dominate Yan Xiaonan. Not going to spend too much time on this one. I know you guys don't give a fuck. If you want the detailed female fighter of the year, then you can watch fucking, I don't know, some woke boy like Kenny Okoye. We'll go elsewhere for that one. I'm just giving it to Kayla Harrison. I don't really care about this award. Card of the year, I'm going 300. Now, as far as fights, results, entertainment, 300 was unbelievable, but Tampa's right there. The final card of the year, UFC Tampa, had the best knockout spree of the entire year, for sure, between Kopp, Jacoby, Swanson, Woodson, Alvarez, Michael Johnson. Insane performances, insane finishes up and down that card. Navajo Sterling, impressive performance. And then Buckley dominantly beating Colby Covington, again, by finish, kind of. It's a doctor stoppage. But UFC 300 was the card of the year because every single fight was important or great. Every single fight was important. I mean, the first fight of the year, or the first fight on the card was Figgy versus Garbrandt. Then it went to Green versus Miller, Legends fight. Sick performance there as well. Then you actually had a fun chick fight in Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Then you have Diego Lopez getting a sick knockout. Hanato Moicano getting a finish. Cater and Aljo was boring, but it was a high-level, high-ranked fight. Aljo's jumped to featherweight. Big news. Geary had a great finish, got back in the win column. We had to watch Bonacall on the main card, but it was still a dominant performance over Cody Brundage. Oliveira Sarukian, Max Holloway, and Justin Gaethje. We don't got to say anything about that. Everyone knows. Yan Xiaonan versus Zhang Weili. And then Pereira knocking out Hill to end it. I'm missing one fighter, and I feel bad about it. I don't remember who, but we're missing one. I don't remember who it is. Are we missing one? We gotta be, but I don't, dude, it doesn't even matter. This card was fucking nuts. Top to bottom, stacked, sick fight, and then Tampa had better finishes, yes, but UFC 300 had the most importance on the UFC, and it delivered as a spectacular card. Other notable mentions, UFC 299, Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera. That main card was stacked. We had the return of Petr Yan getting a big win. JDM had a good finish over Gilbert Burns, which is not a comeback as he was 1-1 going into 3 and winning round 3. Just going to say that. And then UFC 308 was an absolutely legendary card in Abu Dhabi. So, going to put those up there. But the card of the year to me is UFC 300. Just the importance of what was going on that card was amazing. So, I'm going to give it a UFC 300. And we're moving on to the next category, which is the He's Back Award. Petr Yan, guys. I think you know that it's Petr Yan. I think you know it always should be Petr Yan. Now, Dominic Reyes and Renato Moicano, welcome back, right? Big wins from these guys. Renato Moicano bouncing back after an RDA loss and working his way up the rankings. Guys back, right? Worked his way all the way back up like he did at featherweight. Dominic Reyes, 2 wins in the rankings, moving up the light heavyweight division. He's back, first win since 2020. But the most He's Back award, the best He's Back award could possibly be, is Petr Yan. Guy is coming off questionable losses. Debatably beat O'Malley. Did beat O'Malley, but they give it to O'Malley. Debatably beat Aljamain Sterling. Lost a close judge's decision. And then had a terrible performance with Merab, where Merab just relentlessly shot takedowns on one of the most miserable things we could have ever watched. So what does Petr Yan do? Takes some time off, comes back a year later, beats a dangerous contender in Song Yadong. Dangerous. Beats him in an impressive fashion. Then he waits, and he beats a 3-0 at bantamweight, Davison Figueiredo, former flyweight champion. Not only that, he 50-45s him in one of the performances of the year. Petr Yan is the He's Back award. 2-0, amazing performances, great high-level fights, and he's a fan favorite that we all got to see back in the win column. This is exactly what the He's Back award is for. Petr Yan is back. Now, the performance of the year. This is not a knockout of the year. This is who had the most lopsided, spectacular high-level performance in the octagon this year. And there's a couple. But I am going with the most lopsided, spectacular, high-level performance of Yuri versus Alex 2. Yuri in the first fight had moments where he was able to get it to the ground, might have even taken round 1 if I remember correctly. He was able to land on Pereira at times, and Pereira just wasn't comfortable in that first fight and landed a questionable early stoppage knockout. In the second fight, Pereira had his way with Yuri. There's no other way to say it. As gay as it sounds, there's no other way to say it. Pereira literally schooled Yuri Brhakic, was beating him up with the low kicks, was landing jabs to the body, and then at the end of round 1, lands the hook that sits down Yuri Prochazka upstairs. You could have called the knockout there. But no. Bell sounded. Round 2, 10 seconds in, high kick, lands on Yuri Prochazka, knocks him out cold. The follow-up is there. It was an insane performance. There wasn't a moment of success for Yuri Prochazka in this fight. And Alex Pereira put on a spectacular knockout performance on short notice while injured. I mean, this was an amazing performance. Shut the door on Yuri. No, it wasn't a 5-round masterclass, but it showed the level above Yuri that Alex Pereira really is, especially in the striking. Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka 2 is my performance of the year. It was an absolute amazing performance. And one of those ones where we go, oh my God, this guy might go out there and find a way to beat Ankalaev. This was one of those fights where you go, dude, he might actually find a way to beat Ankalaev. He has the touch of death. You go near him and you go out. So I'm going into that. Honorable mentions, Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Pantoja made it look like Kai Asakura didn't belong in the UFC. Now, I know Asakura had a moment with a big knee in the first round, but when Pantoja wanted it on the ground, he got it on the ground, and he got the choke very easily. Amazing performance from Alessandro Pantoja. Also, Sean O'Malley schooling Chito Vera among 5 rounds is a terrific performance. Hamza Chimaev choking out Robert Whittaker in a round is a great performance. Petr Yan versus Davison Figueiredo is an absolutely amazing performance. But I'm giving it to Pereira versus Prochazka too. I think it was the best one. So one-sided, ended in a spectacular finish, and really made us go. And this is while Pereira, this is 1 month into the new gloves that weren't working, and Pereira was the guy that finally made a show. All right, maybe there isn't such a big problem with the gloves. Turns out there was. Pereira's just got the type of power that it don't fucking matter. He's going to hit you with that left hook, and you're going night-night. Amazing performance. We're going to the upset of the year. Now, don't call me woke, because I'm not. You know, I'm a big red pill guy. But it's a chick with the upset of the year, guys. Last year, it was Sean Strickland versus Real Adesanya. This year, dude, Gabriela Fernandez beating Wayne Kong was fucking nuts. Was nuts. Now, Volkov versus Pavlovich was crazy. Cam Smotherman stepping in on short notice to beat Jake Hadley up was awesome. Ayman Zahabi beating Javid Basharat was amazing as well. But when you watch the Wayne Kong versus Gabriela Fernandez fight, Fernandez was having moments, sure, but Wayne Kong was winning. Wayne Kong was a massive underdog. I think the biggest statistical underdog in the UFC this year. Obviously not including Contender Series because there was some crazy upsets there, but we're not including Contender Series here. But my goodness, the way that Gabriela Fernandez jumped to the back so quick to get the choke was insane. And that was after she knocked down Wayne Kong. Tremendous performance, tremendous finish, huge upset. And I know it sucks that we had a legitimate women's prospect that we were all super excited for, that we were like, could be champion, no problem today. And then got fraud checked, but this was an insane upset. I got to give it the upset of the year because I was not expecting. I thought Wayne Kong flatline KO in the first 30 seconds. That's what I had thought. Nope. Gabriela Fernandez, big comeback win, kind of. Like it was pretty close throughout the fight. Like Wayne Kong was winning, but it wasn't like a beatdown by any means. And Fernandez just gets us win. Massive upset. That is the upset of the year. And we are moving on to the commentator of the year. Now, don't call me woke, because I'm not. But I have a reason behind this. It's for love. It's for love. Me and Laura Sanko, guys. I'm telling you, it's meant to be. Laura, if you ever see this, I'm waiting. Right? I'll sit here and I'll wait for you whenever you're ready, babe. But in all seriousness, but my love is serious, 100%. But she's better than everyone else. I don't care about your casual copied MMA guru take of, yeah, but like every time there's a knockout, I don't like hearing her squealy voice. Really? I really don't notice it. Because she is the best analyst on the desk. She comes the most prepared. She's the most fluent and the most articulate at speaking on the desk. She says shit how it is. She vibes with everyone on the desk. There is never a bad performance from Laura Vasenko on the commentary desk, and we see it from everyone else. And she knows what she's talking about. She studies. She worked her ass off to get there, and she showed that she is the best. It's bar none. Now, Felder is a close second. I put Felder here too, because Felder is very, very good as well. But Felder has moments where the fighter takes over and not the analyst, and it hurts his commentary a little bit sometimes, where Laura Sanko's sharp as a nail every single time. Every single time. Nails it. Felder's great too. Now, Anik's usually very good when Rogan's not on commentary, and I'm actually a DC guy. I like DC and Anik dicking around on commentary with Sanko when Rogan's not on there, because it's fun, it's funny, and it's usually at the right times. There are times where, you know, the fight is going on, and like when someone's laying in guard and nothing's happening, I'm cool with them yapping on the commentary to keep us entertained because the fight just isn't. But there are times where like the fight's going and they are going a little bit too long. I totally recognize that, but they are exponentially worse when Rogan's on commentary because Rogan turns it into a fucking podcast. And he brings up the same old shit every time like an old man whose brain is deteriorating. Now, I understand that my brain's more deteriorated than Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan takes all the supplements he needs, like Alpha Brain and everything he needs, magnesium, whatever, to keep him clear. Love his podcast. Big Joe Rogan fan. But when it comes to UFC commentary, he is the worst commentator. He is. He's lost touch with the sport. He doesn't care anymore. He has more important things to worry about. I get that. But let's not sit here and just like that Joe Rogan is a Trump guy now and all of a sudden be like, he's the best commentator. No, he's not. Sanko is. Sanko runs him out the fucking building. Sanko's the best commentator of the year. Bar none. Argue with the fucking wall. I don't care what you think on that. It's Sanko. You can argue Felder. I don't think there's any other argument, though. What are you going to tell me, Bisping, when he can only see half the fucking fight because his other eye's looking this way? He did on live, not realizing he was on live, saying, what a fight, what a guy, and waited 10 seconds and goes, what a guy, that's fucking gay. And that was hilarious. And Bisping's hilarious. I like Bisping. When it comes to commentating the sport, there isn't someone on Lorisenko or Paul Felder's level. There's not. We're done. I've honestly kept going on this slide because while I'm talking to you, I'm staring at Lorisenko's baby blue eyes. I can't help it. We're staying on this slide as long as I can. I've dragged this out far longer than I planned on talking about it because I can't stop staring at Lorisenko. But we'll move on. All right, fight of the year, guys. It's Mike Orolbai versus Mateusz Rebecki. There are a lot of sick fights this year. Esteban Ribovic, Daniel Zellhuber, unbelievable fight. Brandon Royval, Tatsuro Taira, unbelievable fight. I very much enjoyed Makhachev versus Poirier. Roundtree versus Pereira was a sick fight too. But the best one was Mike Orolbai versus Mateusz Rebecki. These guys literally put it all on the line and were willing to die in that octagon. Not only that, it was back and forth, close fight. There were knockdowns. There was ground and pound. There was good grappling, blood flowing everywhere, eyes slammed shut. This was one of those fights where you go, oh my God. When someone says, hey, I'm looking to get into the sport, but I don't really know what fights I should be looking at to get into it. I'm showing them this fight. And if they don't like violence, then they'll know that this sport's not for them. But if they find out that they enjoy violence, this is the fight you show them. This fight was fucking nuts. Absolutely insane. Back and forth war the whole time. These guys put it all on the line. It wasn't technical. In fact, it was a little sloppy at times. But it was unbelievable. Actually, another good one. Billy Ray Goff versus Trey Waters, whatever his fucking name is. That was actually a fun fight. It was just so ugly that I couldn't put it in there. But, dude, Orolbai and Rebecki, for the ones that sat down and watched the prelims of every single fight night, every single pay-per-view, every single fight of the entire year, know that Rebecki and Orolbai has to be in everyone's top 3, if not your number 1. Has to be. Because I'm okay with you putting Zellhuber versus Ribovic up there. But I think those are the two, and I really don't think it's that close. The people that are going to say, listen, Holloway and Gaethje was a good fight. I look at that more as a good performance by Holloway than I look at it as a fight of the year. It was Holloway beating up Gaethje for 4 rounds and Gaethje having a couple moments here and there. And ended in a spectacular knockout. One of the greatest things I've ever seen. But that doesn't make it fight of the year. It was a great performance from Holloway. Great knockout from Holloway. It was a great fight. But it was not fight of the year. Wasn't even in my top 5. Barely crapped my top 10. Just going to say it how it is, guys. Just going to say it how it is. Rebecki Orolbai is the best one. I mean, this was fucking unbelievable. I literally watched it again the other night and went, dude, I can't believe that this fight literally happened in the middle of the day, and it was nuts. Nuts. I'm sitting there in the middle of the day. Because the Abu Dhabi card started at 10? Main card came on at 2? So this fight literally goes on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I am screaming like my team just won the fucking Super Bowl. New England Patriots, by the way, baby. Let's go. Number 1 overall pick because we're the worst team in the league this year. But man, dude, this was the one. Fight of the year, Rebecki Orolbai. Now, we're going to damper the mood a little bit, guys. I've hinted at this one already. Robbery of the year goes to... You already know. It's Volkov versus Gane 2. We all watched that fight, and we all know for sure Alexander Volkov won the fight. And it wasn't that close. Clear win for Volkov, got robbed because the UFC wants to see Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall at some point in case the John Jones thing don't work out. I get it. I gotta stop saying that. It's dumb. Dude, it's really dumb. Volkov's the better fighter. Volkov is going to give Aspinall a harder fight than Cyril Gane will. Now, I get that Aspinall already ran through Volkov, but to me, it's like, dude, you can't. It wasn't close enough to give to Cyril Gane. It wasn't. Volkov won that fight. Insane robbery. Adelaide Bird looked at how Cyril Gane is sculpted, got wet for the first time in 60 years, and decided that she was just going to give the fight to Cyril Gane. Bullshit. Other honorable mentions, Jose Aldo vs. Mario Batista. I just don't understand how judges can give a round to a fighter that clearly doesn't want to be in that octagon and just hold someone against the cage. control time don't matter because the second they separate, it's Aldo piecing him up and him going right back to holding on for dear life to not get knocked out because he's a pussy-ass bitch. Pantoja and Usyk, this is not a robbery, guys. I'll be brutally honest. It's not. It's a very close fight that I do think Usyk won. But this one is a brutal robbery. Renat Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal could have been 30-27 Leal, and there was a judge that gave it 30-27 Renat. And Renat won a unanimous decision, so it was terrible. Now I get it. The back spots on fucking Carlos Leal were crazy. The guy was taking insane steroids, and it was just so visible through his skin. But it was a robbery. Complete robbery. But Gane vs. Volkov 2 was the most high-level, my robbery of the year, because it was literally one of the most watched robberies. Fakhretdinov vs. Leal was the first fight on UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi, and it started at 10 a.m. No one fucking saw it. No one gave a shit. This one people cared about. Last pay-per-view of the year, feature fight, heavyweight title implications, and you screwed him in front of everybody. Robbery of the year goes to Alexander Volkov, Ciryl Gane 2. Now we're moving on to submission of the year. Now there were some great ones, but one that broke my heart the most, but it is submission of the year, man. It's Khamzat Sub and Whitaker. No one fucking does that to Robert Whitaker. Literally, not to Joe Rogan this thing right now. Who does that? Nobody does that to Robert Whitaker, dude. I'm being dead ass. Jacare didn't do it. Dude, Khamzat took him down, and dude, Whitaker was rolling with it, too. Like, this wasn't easy. Khamzat was working for this submission because Whitaker was rolling. He was doing the right things. He was moving Khamzat's feet out to, like, get rid of the hook. He was fighting the hands the whole time. He was working on ways to get back to the feet, trying. And Khamzat just kept him on the ground, remained patient, calm. The second his hands got locked, not even under the chin, crushed Whitaker's jaw all the way back. Submission of the year. Khamzat Chimaev over Robert Whitaker. He made Robert Whitaker tap to pain. He didn't tap to being choked out and not breathing. He tapped to pain. That don't happen for Robert Whitaker. And Khamzat made it happen. This was my submission of the year. Super high stakes. Happened in round one against one of the best fighters you will ever face in your life in Robert Whitaker. What a performance from Khamzat. Looked better than DDP did when DDP fought Khamzat. Crazy. Honorable mentions, Makhachev over Dustin Poirier. That was sick. Obviously, 5th round submission was awesome. Darce choke, special kind of submission. DDP versus Izzy was great. 4th round submission, title fight. And Izzy had never been submitted before in the UFC. Or period, I'm pretty sure. And DDP did it. Plot armored his way all the way through. Pantoja versus Asakura was so dominant and impressive. And I'm going to throw Renier de Ridder in against Gerald Meerschaert, because who the fuck subs Gerald Meerschaert? Nobody. And Renier de Ridder did it in his debut after looking terrible on the feet and tarted his way to a submission victory. So, Renier de Ridder's also in there over Gerald Meerschaert, but the submission of the year has to be Khamzat over Robert Whitaker. Unbelievable. Now we're going to the next award, which everyone knows who's going to win it. It's Newcomer of the Year, and this is going to go to Carlos Prates. He was a rookie this year. So is Felipe Lima, Marcio Ruffi, Gene Silva. Look at how many, literally 3 out of the 4 guys on here are Fighting Nerds guys. But Prates had the best year, man. 4-0, 4 finishes, 1 ranked opponent. I mean, that's all I got to say, dude. Felipe Lima looked great against Muhammad Naimov, and then Miles Johns looked great, dominant. Marcio Ruffi looked great against James Lontop, but he even dropped around to James Lontop. And as far as debut of the year, debut fight of the year goes to Marcio Ruffi, which I didn't make as a category, but we're making a new one. Debut of the year. It's Marcio Ruffi against Jamie Malarkey at UFC 301. Gene Silva's another guy in there, but Carlos Prates is the newcomer of the year, guys. 4-0, 4 knockouts. Insane buzz around his name in the rankings now, welterweight. It's Carlos Prates. Moving on, we're coming to the end of this video, so we got some really, really good ones left, guys. I'm telling you right now which ones we have left. 4 left. KO of the year, comeback of the year, main event of the year, and the greatest moment of the year for the UFC. Let's go to knockout of the year. Greatest moment will be last. Greatest knockout of the year is Shara versus Armin Petrosian, guys. I've never seen a double spinning back fist. I've never seen it before until Shara Magomedov did it, and not only did he do it, he executed it perfectly in a fight that was getting a little tough for him, and he found a way to knock out his opponent in spectacular fashion. Shara versus Armin Petrosian, knockout of the year for me. Now, Holloway and Gaethje, unbelievable knockout. They point down to the center of the octagon and just threw, and they got a last-second buzzer beater. That's a really hard one to beat, but I think a double spinning back fist does it. I also think Esteban Ribovic's combination where he finishes by kicking Terrence McKinney's head off was unbelievable. And I also believe that I threw three ends in there. So I'm not Drew Dober, guys. Esteban Ribovic versus Terrence McKinney was a sick knockout as well. Vinicius Oliveira's flying knee over Bernardo Sopage was fucking unbelievable. Sick knockout. And Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway, dude. When you got a guy like Max Holloway who has literally never been knocked out before, and he's been in the UFC since he was I think it was 21 years old. He's now 32, 11 years in the UFC, fighting at the highest level of competition, fighting Volkanovski 3 times, fighting Jose Aldo twice, fighting Frankie Edgar or Chad Mendes. Frankie Edgar and... I mean, this guy, like Arnold Allen, and he's fighting guys, and he's consistently going through them, dude, like Calvin Kattar, like, dude, power punchers, Yair Rodriguez, and he's going out there and not getting knocked out, not only not getting knocked out by winning those fights, then he gets in the octagon with Ilia Topuria, faces the best shot he's ever had, and then ends up getting knocked out by a hook right after. Dude, that's a knockout of the year contender. Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway's up there, but Shara Magomedov versus Armin Petrosian is the best one. I think that was the biggest reaction that I had to a specific knockout. It came out of nowhere, and it was one of those super impressive ones where you're like, this was a different kind of knockout. That's what gives it the knockout of the year for me. It's not a traditional right-hand knockout. It's not a traditional head kick knockout. It's not a traditional flying knee, which is not traditional. It was a fucking double spinning back fist. That's my KO of the year. Comeback of the year. There's only one candidate, because I'm not calling JDM a comeback versus Gilbert Burns. He was tied with Gilbert Burns, beating him in round 3. And I love Gilbert Burns, dude. Show me the money, his fights, his commentary, everything he does. Love Gilbert Burns, but I am not going to give him comeback of the year just because 2 judges like to score grappling against Jack Della Maddalena, but don't like to score grappling control time against any other fighter. So for me, the comeback of the year is crystal clear. And it came on the second fight of the card when Neil Magny was getting his ass beat by Mike Malott for 14 minutes. And then in the last minute, turns the fight around and wins by finish over Mike Malott in front of his home crowd in Canada. Sorry, guys. I know I have Canadian followers. I'm sorry. The men literally went winless on that card. It's terrible. The ladies stepped it up for you, though, because they got balls. Comeback of the year goes to Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. Like, this was one of those fights where you just watch Mike Malott beat his ass, and then in the last minute, Neil Magny just crafty vet, not to Lucas Tracy this thing here, but crafty vet his way to an insane comeback win, getting mount and just making Mike Malott quit and not be able to defend himself. Comeback of the year goes to Neil Magny versus Mike Malott. Now, main event of the year, and we'll finish with moment of the year. So main event of the year, the second to last award. Hope you guys have enjoyed this, by the way, because I got more videos coming out, but this is one of those ones that wanted to get out before the new year. It's New Year's Eve right now. It's actually the day before New Year's Eve right now, but I'm releasing this on New Year's Eve tomorrow. But I mean, come on, guys. Main event of the year. There's a lot of good ones. There's Allen versus Curtis didn't even get an honorable mention because it was such a good fight, but there were better ones. Makhachev Poirier is the main event of the year. Competitive, kind of, like Makhachev won this fight and he was winning 3-1, about to be 4-1. But like Poirier was coming, this is the best that Poirier had looked against a grappler in a very, very long time. He looked better against Makhachev than he did against Benoit Saint-Denis. And I understand he beat Benoit Saint-Denis by knockout, but like, he was getting out-grappled to bits in that fight. He was getting out-grappled to bits in this fight too. But he was finding ways to get back to his feet. He was landing his own successful shots on the feet. The crowd was going crazy. He had an awesome walkout. I believe Trump was in the crowd, was going crazy for him. I mean, this was just an unbelievable fight. This is one of those fights that everyone's going to talk about. When they talk about the best fights of like 2024, this is always going to be in the conversation. Amazing. Ended in an amazing finish, but went to war. These guys went to war, had nothing but respect. but it was a good scrap fight that mixed all parts of the martial arts. It's the main event of the year for me. Also to be considered with Pereira and Roundtree was a great main event. It capped off a terrible card. UFC 307 was fucking awful, but it was a great main event. Ilya versus Max was an unbelievable main event, even if we didn't love the final finish. Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. And one of the most slept-on main events of the entire year was Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. Now, I know it wasn't in front of a massive crowd because the UFC still, for some reason, fights in the Apex. When every single time we go in front of a crowd, the crowd brings the energy and it makes the fights better. We're still fucking in the Apex. We're going to be in the Apex all the way through March of 25. Kopp versus Royval is about to be in the Apex. I don't get why Manel Kopp isn't in front of a crowd every single time. But before my blood pressure continues to rise, I'm going to solidify by saying the main event of the year was Makhachev versus Poirier. And we're going to move on to the moment of the year. Final award. You might be shocked that this didn't have an award yet, but I made moment of the year because this moment deserved its award. I couldn't give it to fight of the year. Couldn't give it to knockout of the year. But the moment of the year, the most holy shit, oh my god, I love this sport so much moment of the year, was Juliana Pena winning. I'm just kidding, guys. It was Max Holloway KOing Justin Gaethje. This moment was nuts. This happened. The reactions from the crowd, the commentary, MMA YouTube, anybody watching, it was all over social media for months after. This was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. 1 second on the clock for the BMF belt, showing what it really means to be in BMF, pointing at the center of the octagon saying, let's fucking swing. And they fucking swung, and Max Holloway knocked out Gaethje. Unbelievable performance. Unbelievable moment. The moment of the year. Other honorable mentions, Cub Swanson's KO over Billy Q. I loved Chael Sonnen's Hall of Fame speech. Tough times don't last, but bad guys do. Like, that's a great moment. Moicano's mic moment in France saying, fuck Macron. That was awesome. And then the crowd going crazy for Aspinall at the UFC 309 presser was also great. When they kept asking questions about Tom Aspinall and who's next, and 309 was not about Stipe versus Jones. It was about Jones versus Aspinall and why that isn't happening and when it will happen. The Tom Aspinall getting guaranteed the next title shot at that sent the crowd into a whirlwind, and they were cheering like absolute animals. But the moment of the year is Max KO and Justin Gaethje. I hope you enjoyed the MMA awards for 2024, brought to you by Sandbox MMA. If there are ones that you agree with, let me know. Ones that you disagree with, let me know. If there's an award that you would like to see that I missed, let me know. If there is any moment that I missed in these awards, let me know. I want to hear about it. I had to go through, there were 42 cards this year. I had to go through every single fight on every card. I wanted to make sure I got them all, but listen, I'm only human. I could have fucked up. If there's one that I missed, especially a major one, let me know. Happy to talk about it in the comments as always. If you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. More stuff coming soon.